Hi, welcome to Play It Loud, and I was there. This episode concerns Pink Floyd in the Park, 1968, and the Stones in the Park a year later in 69. Two both played roughly the same place, but a million miles apart. Let's start with Pink Floyd. If you listen to John Peel, he was on Radio 1, late night program, 10:30, maybe a Tuesday, maybe a Thursday. He was the only way you would find out that there was a free concert in the park. Maybe International Times covered it, but it was almost a secret. So on the Saturday afternoon after it had been announced, roughly 4,000 people went to the park, sat down in the sunshine and enjoyed a fabulous concert. I can't honestly remember who opened. I've looked it up and they said it was Traffic. I'm not sure, but I remember Pink Floyd distinctly. They were fantastic. At the time, you'd have thought that Pink Floyd was a night group, a club group, a group that used a lot of lights in their backing. Now they're in the open air, sunshine, completely the opposite. They opened with Astronomy Domini, and I think they played Interstellar Overdrive, but what I really remember is Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun. It was absolutely mind-blowing. It was wonderful. All 4,000 people, the girls dancing, the boys often sat around under trees, just enjoying the sun and listening to the music. No security, a really, really wonderful afternoon. So, if you're going to play it loud, play this. This Pink Floyd's Saucer Full of Secrets is almost forgotten. The first album, the one with Syd Barrett, that's pretty much up people's lists, and clearly Dark Side of the Moon is, but Saucer Full of Secrets, it's a schizophrenic album. It's not quite away from Syd Barrett. There are 2 or 3 tracks he wrote on it, although he appears on it, I think, very little. And there are other tracks, the title track and Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, that are clearly Dave Gilmour. So yes, schizophrenic album, not quite in one camp and not yet in the other. They haven't moved to Echoes yet, Medal, and eventually Dark Side of the Moon, but they've almost left their first album. And yeah, go and play it, go and listen to it. You're missing something if you don't. And before I move on to the Stones, a quick word on Nick Mason. Nick Mason, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated drummers in the rock genre. Without Nick Mason, Pink Floyd would not be Pink Floyd. He's a very, very necessary member of that sound. Others just can't do it. He was a very, very important member of Pink Floyd. Yeah. We can move on to Charlie Watts and the Stones in a minute. It's a year later. The Rolling Stones are playing Hyde Park, and this time there's not 4,000 people there. There's 400,000 people there. This was well advertised. This was the Stones coming back after a 2-year absence. They'd lost Brian Jones. They'd employed Mick Taylor. This was their comeback. I was there, and it didn't work. Swinging London was on the way out. The whole hippie, the whole scene, 67, 68, was dying rapidly. Now, there wasn't just security, there was problems, there was skinheads, there were people going around the outside in vans looking for trouble. This wasn't a good day for the majority of people who were there. The sun was shining, the sound was good, but they'd moved it to a different part of Hyde Park. You couldn't sit on a hill and look down over the group. You had to stand, or you had to be pretty much in the flat. And with that many people, it wasn't good. I can't remember the opening band, but I can remember the band immediately before the Stones. They were King Crimson, and they were extraordinary. That day, King Crimson arrived, and that day, the Stones really didn't. I say again, they'd lost Brian Jones, and that was a lot. When they lost Mick Taylor later, I think they lost even more. When they lost Bill Wyman, I'm not sure they were ever the Stones again. And personally, when Charlie Watts died, game over. But back in 1969, they did their best. Keith Richards said later that it wasn't their finest hour and they only got it together at the end because they hadn't rehearsed enough. It was a little sad. It was not an enjoyable day. But if you want to play it loud, this is where you go. The Rolling Stones' Beggar's Banquet, not a bad album at all. Largely acoustic, yeah, Rolling Stones acoustic. Yes, nearly every track on it features acoustic guitars. It's not the Rolling Stones' biggest rock band in the world. It's the Rolling Stones proving that they can get back into blues and they can do it the way that it was originally recorded. It's a good album. There's some good tracks on it. It's certainly better than the live versions that I heard that day. But what I'd really like to recommend, what I really want you to hear, that's the album you play loud. King Crimson arrived. It was their day, not the Stones. Personal opinion. If anybody else out there has got a different one, I'd like to hear it. But no, the whole London was going downhill. Soon it would be the 70s and just wasn't the same again.